You were born in a strange psychological gap, not fully analog, not fully digital, not fully traditional, not fully modern. If you belong to the generation born between 1965 and 1980, you grew up in a world that kept changing its rules while you were still learning how to play the game. And that does something deep to the mind. It builds a different kind of psychology, a different emotional structure, a different survival style. Most people talk about generations like marketing categories, but generation is not just culture. It is nervous system conditioning. It is repeated environment pressure during your identity-forming years. And Gen X was shaped under pressure, uncertainty, and emotional self-management earlier than most. You were the kids who came home to empty houses, not because your parents didn't care, but because both of them were working. Divorce rates were rising. Economic pressure was real. Emotional language was limited. Nobody asked how you felt. You were told to handle it, adjust. Don't complain, be practical. That message, repeated for years, builds a specific inner voice. Deal with it yourself. That is why Gen X developed emotional self-reliance earlier than other groups. Not motivational self-reliance, survival self-reliance. There is a difference. Motivational self-reliance says, I can do this. Survival self-reliance says, no one is coming. One creates ambition. The other creates psychological armor. When a child learns early that emotional rescue is not guaranteed, the brain adapts. It reduces expectation. It increases self-soothing behaviors. It builds internal problem-solving loops instead of external help-seeking loops. Over time, this becomes personality, calm outside, busy inside, controlled reactions, private struggles. That's why many Gen X adults look emotionally steady under stress. But steadiness is not always peace. Sometimes it is long-trained containment. You grew up during media shift, not overload. Shift. There were only a few channels. Information was slower. News felt heavier. Authority felt distant. You didn't grow up broadcasting your life. You grew up observing life. That builds a watcher mindset. Less performance, more interpretation. You learned to read situations quietly instead of reacting loudly. Psychologically, this builds strong situational awareness. Many Gen X minds are good at reading tone, tension, and power dynamics in a room, because when emotional conversations are rare, you learn to read nonverbal truth, silence, posture, voice changes, microsignals. You became interpreters before you became expressors. Another deep layer. Uncertainty training. Gen X childhood and early adulthood included economic recessions, corporate downsizing waves, rapid tech change, and shifting job security. You were told to be loyal to companies, then watched companies cut loyal people. That breaks blind trust in systems. It replaces it with cautious realism. That's why Gen X tends to be skeptical of hype. Promises don't impress easily. Titles don't impress easily. Big talk doesn't impress easily. You want proof, track record, pattern, consistency. This is not negativity. It is adaptive skepticism, a defense against disappointment. There is also a motivation pattern difference. Many Gen X individuals are internally driven, but externally quiet about it. You don't always announce goals. You build privately. Because early life taught you that talking doesn't guarantee outcomes, doing does. That creates a low-noise work style, less posting, more executing. Emotionally, Gen X often struggles with one hidden tension, needing connection but distrusting dependency. You value loyalty deeply, but you also learned not to rely too heavily. So relationships can become paradoxical, close but guarded. Caring but not expressive, present but not emotionally exposed. This is why some Gen X adults are misunderstood as emotionally distant. They are not distant, they are filtered. They don't open quickly because early experience taught them that vulnerability without safety is expensive. Another strong trait: dark humor tolerance. This is not random. Humor style is psychological adaptation. When stress is chronic, but expression is limited, humor becomes a pressure valve. Sarcasm, dry wit, irony. These are emotional release tools. They let you acknowledge pain without collapsing into it. Gen X humor often carries truth inside the joke, because truth spoken directly was not always welcomed. But truth wrapped in humor passes through defenses. You were also raised at the edge of authority shift. You saw institutions lose moral perfection, scandals, failures, contradictions. That breaks blind obedience psychology. It builds independent evaluation psychology. You don't assume authority is right. You check it. This creates strong independent judgment, but also internal pressure. Because when you don't blindly trust leaders, you feel more responsible for your own decisions, more freedom, but more mental load. Work psychology is another major marker. Gen X tends to value competence over visibility, skill over branding, output over image, because early career environments rewarded performance more than self-promotion. So many Gen X professionals feel uncomfortable with modern self-marketing culture. It feels inflated. They prefer results to speak. This creates a silent frustration in modern attention economy systems, where loud visibility often beats quiet skill. But it also creates deep mastery in those who stay committed. Parenting psychology also shifted with Gen X. Many decided to give their children more emotional voice than they had, more validation, more presence. But this sometimes creates internal conflict. Giving what you didn't receive requires emotional muscles you had to build later in life. There is also a resilience pattern here, but not the social media version of resilience. Not motivational quotes resilience. Functional resilience. Show up, handle it, continue. Many Gen X adults don't call themselves strong, but their behavioral endurance is high, because endurance was trained, not taught. But endurance has a cost. Many carry unprocessed emotional fatigue, because handle it was repeated more than heal it. So stress was managed, not always processed. This can show up later as burnout, emotional flatness, or delayed emotional waves. Attention style is different too. Gen X developed focus in lower distraction environments, so deep work comes more naturally. But modern constant interruption feels more mentally invasive. That's why many prefer offline time. Not from ignorance, from nervous system preference. Identity is another key difference. Gen X identity is often role-based and value-based, not audience-based. You define yourself by what you do and what you stand for, not how many people see it. That creates stability, but also invisibility in attention systems. Conflict style is also distinct. Many Gen X individuals prefer direct but contained conflict, not public drama, not emotional explosion, straight talk in private, because public emotional display was discouraged in early environments. That builds controlled confrontation style. Trust is slow, loyalty is deep, betrayal is rarely forgotten. Not because of bitterness, because trust was never given lightly to begin with. Another psychological layer: adaptability without identity loss. Gen X had to learn new technology as adults. That builds cognitive flexibility. But because identity formed before digital life, self-worth is less tied to digital response. That protects mental stability. Socially, Gen X often prefers smaller circles with higher trust instead of wide networks with weak bonds. Depth over reach again appears as a pattern. There is also a grief pattern, the grief of witnessing transition. Analog to digital, local to global, private to public, slow to instant. You remember before and after. That gives perspective, but also a sense that something quieter was lost. Yet this same perspective creates grounded judgment. You are less easily swept by trends because you have comparison memory. And here is the deep truth most people miss. Gen X psychology is built on earned stability, not assumed safety. You don't assume things will work out. You build backup plans, emotional and practical. That is not pessimism. That is structured realism. You are less shocked by difficulty, because difficulty is familiar territory. If you are Gen X and listening to this, understand something important. Your calm is not emptiness. Your skepticism is not negativity. Your privacy is not weakness. Your independence is not emotional distance. These are adaptations, intelligent ones. And if someone around you is Gen X, understand this. They may not say everything they feel, but they feel deeply. They may not ask for help quickly, but they value support strongly. They may not perform emotion loudly, but they experience it fully. Respect the quiet strength. It was built, not given. If this kind of deep psychology breakdown connects with you, stay with the channel. Share your thoughts below, especially if you see your own patterns here. And stick around, because the more you understand generational psychology, the more clearly you understand people. There is another layer to the Gen X mind that people almost never talk about: emotional compression. You learned early how to reduce emotional display without reducing emotional depth. That means you can feel a lot and show very little. From the outside, this looks like toughness. From the inside, it feels like carrying weight quietly. When a generation grows up hearing things like, "Don't be dramatic, handle it, be practical," the emotional brain doesn't disappear. It goes underground. Over years, this builds emotional discipline, but also emotional delay. Many Gen X adults understand their feelings clearly, but often later, not in the moment. Reaction first, processing later, alone. This is why solo time is not loneliness for many of you. It is emotional processing space. Another powerful trait is problem-first thinking. When stress appears, your brain doesn't ask, "Who will help me?" It asks, "What can I do?" That creates fast, stabilizing behavior in crisis. You look for levers, not shoulders, solutions, not sympathy. This makes you dependable. But it can also make you over-responsible. You often carry things that should have been shared because your default setting is self-carry. There is also a loyalty code inside the Gen X psyche that is stronger than average, because instability in early systems makes chosen bonds more important. When you commit to a person, a role, a promise, you take it seriously. You may not speak about loyalty, you demonstrate it quietly, consistently, over time. But the flip side is this: once trust breaks, emotional doors close slowly and reopen even slower, not from revenge, from recalibration. Your brain updates the risk map and doesn't ignore it again. Let's talk about ambition style too. Many Gen X high performers are low theater achievers. They don't need applause to continue. They don't need visibility to validate effort. Their drive is often competence-based, not praise-based. They want to be capable, not just recognized. That produces real-world effectiveness, even when it produces less online noise. You also developed a strong bullshit detector. Growing up through media evolution, corporate messaging, political spin, and cultural shifts trained pattern recognition. You listen for mismatch between words and behavior, tone and intent, promise and pattern. This is why Gen X professionals often become strong negotiators, managers, and advisors. They read between lines naturally. Another psychological marker: controlled optimism, not blind positivity, not fatalism. A middle ground: hope, but verify. That mental stance protects against emotional crashes while still allowing forward motion. Gen X also has a unique stress response: functional detachment. Under pressure, you narrow focus and reduce emotional bandwidth temporarily. You go into task mode, get it done mode, stabilize mode. This is highly useful. But if used too long without decompression, it turns into emotional numbness phases. That's why intentional rest and emotional expression matter more than many of you realize. Let's touch relationships again, because this is where misunderstanding happens most. You are not anti-emotion. You are anti-chaos. Loud emotional volatility feels unsafe, not expressive. You prefer calm honesty over dramatic intensity, predictability over passion spikes. This makes your love style steady, but sometimes misread as less romantic by louder personalities. Communication style too. You often prefer substance over frequency. Fewer words, higher meaning, fewer check-ins, deeper presence. That's not distance, that's compression efficiency. Technology relationship is another big piece. You adopted tech, but you were not formed by it. That gives you tool use psychology instead of identity fusion psychology. You use platforms, but you don't become them. That protects mental boundaries in a way younger generations often struggle with. There is also grief resilience. Many of you learn to keep functioning while hurting. That creates behavioral strength, but emotional backlog, which is why reflection, journaling, or real conversation later in life becomes surprisingly powerful. It releases what was postponed, not avoided. Leadership psychology is strong here too. Gen X leaders often lead with autonomy and trust instead of control and hype. Because you value being trusted, you extend trust. You prefer competence teams over loyalty theater, quiet accountability over loud motivation. Financial psychology also shows patterns: caution with risk, memory of instability, preference for tangible value over speculative hype. Again, not fear, pattern memory. And here is something important for Gen X listeners. Your style may not be loud, but it is deeply needed. In a world full of noise, performance, and instant reaction, your grounded, skeptical, self-managed psychology is stabilizing. You are often the emotional shock absorbers in families, teams, and systems. You are the generation that learned independence before it was fashionable and adaptability before it was optional. If you see yourself in this, nothing is wrong with how you're built. Your mind is structured by reality exposure, not algorithm exposure. That is strength. And if someone in your life is Gen X, understand them with more accuracy. They may not broadcast care, but they practice it. They may not dramatize effort, but they deliver it. They may not talk about strength, but they live it. If this breakdown helped you understand Gen X psychology in a clearer, more human way, stay connected here. Subscribe if you like Deep Psychology Explained Simply. Drop a comment with your generation and what traits you recognize in yourself, and share this with someone who will feel seen by it.